She is the author of Soul Wealth. We'll figure out what that is. Soul wealth. I guess that's wealth in your soul. Finding vision, compassion, authenticity, abundance, and legacy in the midst of chaos. That's a lot to find. Let me welcome to the show Dr. Vikki Johnson.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
You're welcome. Hold on.
You're going to get your full applause.
Yeah, that's right. And you're going to get it on time next time. New people touching the boards. That's not Smiz over there. Don't you worry about it. All right. How you doing?
I am great. So happy to be here.
Are you?
I am.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have you, especially if you're going to give us some soul wealth, because we're all about wealth. Now, what is soul wealth?
Soul wealth is finding, it is vision, compassion, authenticity.
I read that. No,
Yes.
you tell me what it is. Don't you
tell
read your
Karen,
subtitle.
I'm
Don't you give me the subtitle.
I'm not.
Come
I'm
in
gonna
with
tell
talking
you.
points.
No.
All right.
I don't have any talking points.
All right.
I'm talking from my heart and my soul.
All right.
And compassion and legacy and it is what we have to find in the mirror first before we can give it away to others. And so soul wealth comes from 3 John in the Bible, where God says, I would that you prosper and be in health even as your soul prospers. And so in 2014, I did a TED Talk on the power of sacred sisterhood. And the power of sacred sisterhood is that when women connect, collaborate, and create community, what we create for each other is soul wealth. We become that village of all those things: vision, compassion, authenticity, abundance, and legacy. And so that then became my mission. My passion is to share soul wealth with women everywhere I go. And the book just came out in August. So really grateful to be here. Thank you.
So how does one share soul wealth? How do we find it? How did you find yours?
Well, through a lot of experience, a lot of pain, finding my purpose in the midst of pain after overcoming divorce and, miscarriage, losing a child, infidelity in my marriage, betrayal of friends that I thought, would always be there, and being at the bottom, right? Being at the bottom when all you can do is look up. And so my journey just became one step at a time, one moment at a time. And what I'm able to share with women is that if I can recover from the things that I've been through, and that's a real short list, then certainly I'm here to walk beside you to help you do the same.
What was your bottom? What did it look like? What day? Do you remember the day?
I do. I also dealt with postpartum depression for 5 years, so I don't even remember.
5 years.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because I
Sure.
think, I have never had a child and will never have a child through my loins.
Okay.
But I've witnessed women who have had children, and the postpartum depression doesn't get acknowledged because because you are supposed to suck it up and get back to work and get back to your life.
Yeah.
We need you. You got a baby here that needs you. You got a husband that needs you. You got, the work, da-da-da-da. And women are dragging themselves into these spaces completely depressed and depleted, and nobody's there for them. So 5 years is a long time to be depressed.
It's a really long time.
How did it manifest?
It was immediate. Well, I can recall it starting when I went into labor. Like, I just got really angry, and I only have one daughter for that reason. I only have one child because my labor was so intense. It was short. It felt like someone just had taken a sledgehammer to my lower back, and so I got angry, right? And my labor was quick, but I was still angry after my daughter was born. And when they brought her to me in the hospital is when I can, now looking back, remember when it started. They brought her to me for feeding, and I said, take her back to the nursery. Like, there was no connection. I had just totally shut off. And my mom was with me for a week, and then my husband at the time went back to work after a week. So then I was left with her by myself, still angry and functioning, and was blessed to have my supervisor on my job say to me, bring me that baby. And you take care of you. And they literally cared for my daughter for 5 years, she and her husband.
Where were you working?
I was working at the time at USO. I was working for USO in Washington, D.C., and she was my supervisor.
And she raised your daughter?
She and her husband.
Did you all have a prior connection that she would have
Not prior to me
that?
working for her. I mean, we just really had a connection, a lot of synergy at work. And she hosted my baby shower for me. I was in a very difficult marriage, you know, being really transparent. So the baby was supposed to be my joy, you know, to kind of help lift me. But it sent me further into anger. And really what I've come to learn is that depression is really the suppression of emotion that really should be expressed like you do here on the Karen Hunter Show. You know, you give us a platform and a place to get it out, whatever that truth is. But I didn't have that at the time. And so after all of that suppression of anger and sadness and chronic disappointment, that's how it manifested. So it was a tremendous blessing. So that's one of my stories, right, that led me to Soul Well.
We're talking with Dr. Vikki, Vikki Johnson. And as you're talking, first of all, let me thank you for your transparency, because I don't know too many women that would admit that they weren't feeling their children. Like there's got to be an enormous amount of guilt associated with that and embarrassment. And so many of us, Halloween's tomorrow, and I was thinking about how many masks people wear every day. So y'all are celebrating one holiday, but every day you walk through this life with masks on, and how many people felt exactly the way you felt, but yet they put on a mask and pretended and smiled and pretended that they loved their baby and they were happy to be mothers and weren't. And that suppression that you're talking about, I think is why we have such a dysfunctional world that we live in. And I was raised in a home that wanted to put on a good face all the time. And I was like, y'all about some bull crap. So guess what I'm going to do? And my parents hated seeing me come to anything, because I was just, nope, that's not true. You know, and I would be that kid, right? As a little kid, no, you're lying, you know, and they wanted to twist my lips off, but, you know, I was right. And the one thing I could say, especially about my dad, is that, you know, he could be checked. And I was his truth serum every time. I'd be like, nope. But that was freeing. And I learned at an early age that y'all can pretend, but I'm going to tell the truth. And y'all just going to have to walk in lockstep or straighten up. And it was amazing to see people correct themselves, because they knew that hiding behind something wasn't going to work anymore. And so what you're talking about is so freeing. That first of all, I just want to applaud you, because I don't know, are there other women or men? Because I imagine too that there are men that are petrified of being dads.
Yeah.
But it's easier for them to walk away or bury themselves in work or go out with their boys and not have to deal with the day-to-day. But a mother doesn't have that option.
No, and I did not, because I'm originally from Florida. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, so my immediate family outside of my husband was in another state, not really close. And so I really, to this day, identify them as her grandparents. Because they really cared for her and stepped in and became surrogate parents for me and surrogate grandparents for my daughter.
Wow.
And we still have a relationship to this day, and my daughter is now 25.
Now, see, that type of commitment to the honesty and the truth of what happened, that for me is one of the things, as you just said, that can be sort of liberational. I'm making up all types of words.
No, that's a good word.
Liberational for so many women, because you're right, Karen, there is a lot of shame around the feelings that people feel and don't feel when they have birth and when they produce this child. And you're taught, especially as a woman, that this baby is beautiful. You're going to hold the baby. You're going to love the baby. The baby's going to love you back, right? There's a presumption that you'll be able to feed the baby in any particular way that you choose. There's a presumption that there's going to be this natural bonding. And even when you think about men, you know, there's minimal postpartum recognition for women. There's even less for men, and the inability to sort of have these honest conversations, whether it's about actually having birth, about miscarriages and babies that we have lost, about abortions and reasons that mothers may have decided, I cannot do this, or I'm going to choose something else. There's a whole lot of secrecy around it that fosters that suppression of emotion. If I can't talk to you truly about my experience, and I have to put on this fake smile, like I have to go back to work and pretend like I'm happy, or pretend
everybody's
like my
asking
needs
you
are
about
met.
it, right?
Where are the pictures of the baby? Oh my God, don't you love being a mom? And there's a presumption that all is well, and that also can help compound some of the stress that women are feeling.
And the
this time.
shame.
Yeah.
Right? And the shame and the embarrassment. And so soul wealth is also about that liberation. It is about living in your truth, right? Honoring your truth, because that really does break open a sacred space and place for other women to share their truth as I do. So I learned, tell your own story. Tell your own truth so people get the details right? And let the chips fall where they may, because there is going to be at least one person who will be impacted in a positive way.
How did you tell your husband that you were going to give your child to your supervisor? Or did you tell them?
I didn't. I just did it. That was part of the problem. Like, my
so
marriage wasn't breakdown.
Wait, he came home. Where's the baby?
Yeah, literally.
And you said, so tell me what that conversation was.
It wasn't really because, he was doing his thing, and in full transparency, he was doing his thing. And to your point, Lurie,
so
I was taking care of her the best I could, but not really. He was out doing his thing. I tried to breastfeed, that didn't work. Right. I was like, this is whack.
And nobody even talks about the connection between emotions and breastfeeding.
It
nobody
terrible.
even has those conversations.
It was terrible. So the day I remember her going to their home and just staying there, I was home alone with her, and she was crying and wouldn't stop crying. And she maybe was 5 weeks at this point. And I went into the kitchen and turned on the oven. And I was about to put her in the oven. And so I can really connect and relate to women who harm their children, their babies. Like, it's not a malicious thing. It really is. It was something psychotic going on. And when I opened the oven door and felt the heat, that snapped me out of it. And I called my best friend at the time and said, I need you to come over here. I almost put my baby in the oven. And she came. And we called this couple, and they came and took her. And they were like, you can come see her whenever you want. It turned into, they bought her their own crib. They had a stroller, a car seat. They took her on vacation. They're like, you going to let us take this baby? Yeah, take her. I was doing the best I can. And that is the compassion that I have for women who are mothers who are struggling. Because the truth is, we do the best we can in the moment with what we have. And when I can see myself in other women, and other women can see themselves in me, that is where that liberation and that freedom comes.
Thank God for the village.
I was just, girl.
All right, go ahead. You say it.
No,
I'm gonna stop.
We in each other's spirit. No, the village. The village is so important.
So
and
important.
That phrase has been on my spirit ever since this weekend, because we did a whole lot of intentional focus about the village, and we asked these questions. Who builds the village? We identify all the things that are in the village: your source of nurturance, your safety, your physical protection, your source of sustenance with food. And then we asked, well, who builds it? And then if you happen to come upon a village that is already built for you, whose responsibility is to sustain it? And when you don't have those space, if you couldn't have made that call, you're not on this show. That book isn't written.
Right.
You might be still finishing out a bid to complete your time. And so being able to have in place an institution, a body that we can tap into, that is especially for people who descend from a culturally, a collective people. We are not individualistic people. That is not our culture. It does not work for us. But so many of us have to operate in individualistic silos for whatever reason, that the village becomes paramount to our success and our ability to
The village
sustain.
is crucial.
Yeah.
Community is crucial.
I'm using that as a drumbeat because I think there have been so many purposeful methods to separate us, whether we're talking about the projects
That's right.
throughout this country, the separation from men and women. To be on welfare requires that you can't be in a loving relationship, right? Because even that's monitored and the shackles are put on that. And at every turn, to get something from somebody else requires that you give up freedom, humanity, dignity, and all of the things that make us who we are, as opposed to coming together and just we got this, to take Mr. Ellis's term, and to know that we're responsible. We are our brother's keeper. That narrative, I'm not my brother's keeper, doesn't come from us. Let's stop repeating things that were designed to destroy us. Let's stop living other people's mediocre lives and get back to who we are. And I think that this is so powerful. And I think there might be a lot of people out there that are saved today because the burden of carrying that that what you felt, to speak it out loud
Yeah.
without judgment in this room, without judgment outside of this room, because, hey, they're before the grace of God. I don't know
I
what
know
that
that's
feels
right.
like, but I know it exists.
That's right.
So did you bring your daughter back 5 years later?
I did, but the blessing, and I look at it as a blessing, not a burden. It for me was divine intervention, right? Because it could have
Definitely.
gone so many other ways. So when she was about 6 years old, she came back home consistently, and I could handle it then.
Now,
I
who
had-
were you to her during those 6 years? Because those are formative years. Those are shoe tying years. Those are learning how to talk years. Those are learning how to walk,
I was
how to be potty
mom.
trained.
Yeah, they were very loving. They made sure she knew who I was, and I could come over and visit anytime, which I did. The blessing was being able to leave her there when I had to go back home, and I would go home and sit in the dark, no lights, no natural light. I would just go home and sit in the dark, and I knew I didn't want to bring her into that because she had such a loving, colorful environment with them. And when she came back, so she knew who I was, and at that time I then had the capacity to be mommy to her. And so I share with women, be gentle with yourself. Be easy with yourself. Give yourself grace that you so freely, that we so freely give to other people. Give that to yourself first. And we've been close, ever since. And she's heard this story. My daughter, I share it with her. She understands it. And I can tell you, when she came back home, it was a lot of overgiving. That's that guilt that you talk about, that I had to work through that, and again, I go back to, and I say to her, I did the best I could with what I had, where I was, and
What did you do to get out of it? Were you, because I was talking today about therapy and how it has been taboo until quite recently. We're talking a lot about mental health now in the last couple of years, which I love, and I'm grateful that we're doing that. But where did you go to get actual therapy and help?
I'm still in therapy.
That's all right. Some of us need to be in until.
I'm still in therapy. The blessing is that my college roommate was a psychotherapist and still is to this day. And so she was on speed dial for me. And I called her a lot, like every day during that time. And she still walks me through,
What does that
current
look like?
situations. It's, answering questions very honestly, being in a space of no judgment, saying my truth freely, even if it's ugly, even if it can be damning at times. She doesn't judge me. And that also was a divine setup. She was my college roommate back in 1985, 86, 87, and we're still friends to this day. And the blessing of that is she dropped out of school when we were at Howard, right? Had a drug problem herself, went off, came back to herself, got her degrees, multiple degrees. And so it was really a lot of reciprocity going on because I walked her through that time, and now she is in my life doing the same. And now we do it for each other. And that's the beauty of that connection and that community is when I'm weak, then my sister can be strong. When she's strong, she can then be that for somebody else. It's all about paying it forward.
And that village is designed to fill in the gaps in your own capacity.
Absolutely.
When you don't have it. Yeah.
Absolutely. We all need that girlfriend, that sister friend, that person, that earth angel, if you want to call it that. We all need that, and several. And so the outgrowth of that experience is now I have a community of about 150 women that I mentor.
Wow.
In the Soul Wealth Tribe is what I call them. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
So we start off the show with a brother that is doing some incredible things for young men, and the need to operate separate. I'm struggling with this too because I'm reading Baldwin the Fire Next Time, and he talks about going to dinner at Elijah Muhammad's home, the Nation of Islam in Chicago, and how the separation of men and women. And I struggle with this because I'm like, don't we need to have conversations together? Don't we need to heal together?
We do.
So in doing things just here, and help me out with this, because
I say at times.
Okay.
At times, there is a time for us to need to come together, male, female, masculine, and feminine, however you identify. There are times when those energies need to come together, but there are some times where we need very much to have isolated private spaces where we can have these conversations. The same thing with Black people. There are times when we need to have dialogue with non-Black people, and there are sometimes we got to shut the door because we got to deal with stuff, and if they are present, it will even impact our ability to communicate our own truth. So if a man is in a room of a sister circle, a lot of women in that circle are going to want to be kind to him and cater to him, just like we're taught to cater to the pastor and to the deacon. So even our own cultural programming at making them comfortable will interrupt our ability to actually sister circle coalesce. Same thing with men. There are some conversations my man has with my husband has with his men, with the men. And if I'm in that room, they're not as honest. They're not able to articulate the way that they would be able to. And so I have to respect that space. It wasn't a space designed with my needs in mind. It was designed for them.
It should be.
Yeah.
Are there enough men circles?
No.
Because here's the thing. Okay.
Nope.
So, all right. All right,
Next
brothers. Here you go. Here's your mission. Men circles. Let's create them.
And not barbershop circle
No,
spaces.
that's a different
where we're
thing.
sort of reaffirming the patriarchy. We're not
And masculinity
really
and all of that.
and
What does that
whoever is the
mean?
biggest alpha male gets to stay the alpha male. Not that. That's a gathering, but that's not brother circling.
What Jason Wilson is doing.
Yeah.
A lot of that. Hey, Jason Wilson.
Yeah.
With your nice self. Because here's the thing, right? And whether people should be married or not married, we can litigate that. But what I do know is that the state of Black relationships is directly proportional to the state of pain and hurt. And if we don't heal individually and collectively, we may procreate, but what we produce ain't good fruit.
Right.
And so I need us to get it together, period. As we build Wakanda, whatever the hell we're building next, we can call it whatever. I feel like the work that you're doing, Dr. Vikki Johnson and a host of other people out there, super powerful. I just need to duplicate it many, many times over, and I need it systematized.
That's right.
So there's that.
We need the McDonald's version of therapy.
Which starts with real estate.
Yeah,
no,
listen.
for real. Have a building.
Everywhere you go, the fries taste the same because
they
they've
do.
mass duplicated what works for them. We need that also.
Okay, I'm with it. Will we take some calls?
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I'm going to give away Soul Wealth. I'm going to give away this book because I like 7, number of completion, and that line's open, 866-801-8255. If you want a copy of Soul Wealth by Dr. Vikki Johnson, call us right now, 866-801-8255. That's my radio voice. All right, let's go to Cherie in Ohio. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to call in. I got in the car at 5 p.m. on my way home from work, and this topic has made tears fall out of my eyes. It's hitting home because you guys have said so many great things, but the bottom line is that communication, we as Black people don't always have great communication skills and how to relate to each other or just be vulnerable with each other and honest about things that happen to us so we can either prevent it or help each other get through it. And some of these things, some of these traumas and triggers that some of us have to be avoided if we would just learn how to communicate a lot better. So thank you so much for the topic today. And I want to hang up and listen some more because it's just been, I was crying on the way home. Like, this is crazy, just how touching it is.
Thank you, Cherie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We do have a winner already, so y'all can stop calling. We have a winner. Smith is getting the information.
Nice.
Okay, so walk me through the repair, because I'm thinking now as a daughter. You know, mothers and daughters are a complicated thing. And if you have a great relationship, I remember my college roommate and her mom had the best relationship to the point when she lost her virginity, she called her mother first. And I was like, that's the strangest thing I've ever. You did what now? You called your mother? What? Say what now? Like, it was the most bizarre thing. But then I got to witness her relationship with her mother, and I had never seen such closeness. You know, not that, because I didn't have that where I would just tell my mother anything. Most of us, especially when we get to a certain age, because we're women, we're going to have conflict. I guess I don't know if that's baked in either, or whether we got to roll or work into it, or maybe we see ourselves and our daughters that things we don't like, and then we put all of the things off on our daughters that we didn't do. So there's a lot of conflict. How do you manage your relationship with your daughter now?
I tell her the truth. and I create space for her to speak her truth. I think for a certain period, I identified and was mindful that she was trying to be the perfect daughter. And so giving her room to make mistakes and learn and communicate and talk to her, and then giving her access, right, to then watch me communicate with other women and them with me. And consistency is important. Being consistent with her was a
What does that mean?
thing.
How did you discipline her? How could you discipline her, right? So I imagine that, if she did something wrong, you might not discipline her.
No, I would. I would have a conversation with her. I probably have spanked my daughter maybe 4 or 5 times. I was that mother. I have that look.
She just gave me the look, y'all. It's legit. It's official. Black mama certified.
And she being an only child, my only child, she's very comfortable by herself. Alone, has learned to entertain herself and loves to read. She's very creative, loves to sing, dance, act. And so I kept her in that village. I kept her in the context of a village, kept her in a creative environment. She went to college, got a vocal performance degree from the Hart School of Music in Connecticut. And she's still in that environment, very cognizant of her heritage, of her African history and connection. She's a part of an African dance troupe.
Wait, what was the supervisor white?
No.
Okay, all right.
She was black.
like, what's going on? Wait a minute, is this another thing? I'm like, no. What's about to happen here?
When the conversation could take a left turn.
No.
I was like, wait a minute.
She's very black from Elba, Alabama,
Okay, all
as
right.
a matter of fact.
Thank you, Jesus. I was like, this is just
Child
that
trafficking.
was about to really mess me up.
Not
Okay.
at all. No,
Good
the
catch, good
scholarship, just came.
Mm.
But she's just very culturally astute, and it has become an advocate of her own for other women, particularly young women. So I'm very proud of her.
Doctor, what did you get your doctorate
It's
in?
in Divinity,
Okay.
actually.
All right. So there was a lot of soul searching.
It has been a lot, and a lot of transparency.
So we had and I'm gonna get to the winner. Let me give the winner because the winner's holding on. All right, let's go to Vegas and Marcia in Vegas or Marsha in Vegas. You are a winner.
I really appreciate it.
All right, welcome. Why did you want this book?
I don't know. I was so interested in what she was saying. I was like riveted by everything she was saying, and I thought, well, I need to read this book. I really do.
Okay. All right. Well, you've won it, and we're gonna send it out to you. We got your information, so thank you for calling and being a part of this family, and hope you enjoy it.
And I do listen to your show daily, Karen, so I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure, actually. I don't know what else I would be doing with myself. I promise you. I promise you.
But we are very glad you're not trying to find out.
I'm not. This is it.
The Karen Rebels might rebel
Well,
should that day.
I'm
not even going to speak.
All right. Don't. Yeah. Watch
Nope.
yourself.
Moving on.
The Divinity. So I had Ari Spears was here, and we talk off mic from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
He's struggling spiritually. He's struggling, and he's like, I don't know if I believe in God anymore. And it actually literally broke my heart when he said it, as if there aren't a lot of people out there who don't believe in God, and I get that. Where did you land on this God thing, and why did you go get a doctorate in divinity? And as you were going through this postpartum depression and all of the things that you were experiencing with your husband, your ex-husband, where did God sit in that?
In the darkness.
He was right there with you, or she was right there with you?
In the darkness with me. Was I really activated in my faith? Probably not. But I did have an awareness that I had faith, right? And eventually I would walk it out. But God is in the dark place with us too. And I was in a very dark place, dark night of my own soul. So, when people find themselves in that place, my response is that God is in the darkness with you too. And it's okay to ask God questions. And it's okay to not believe. I believe in, who told you that? Where did you get that from? I'm working on a message that I'll deliver one day called the gentrification of our faith.
Ooh.
Like,
Gracious.
why
She
do
said
we
that.
believe what we believe?
Damn.
Who told you Jesus was white? If I'm made in his image and in his likeness, then that means, first of all, God must be a woman or have some feminine characteristics. God must be black like me. If I'm made in the image, if that's what I'm taught. And so I encourage people to explore, where did you get that from? Is that what your mother told you, your grandmother told you? That is also liberating. And what it does is it brings you back to yourself, because ultimately I believe that God is in each of us and works in us, through us, as us in the earth. So each of us is an expression of God in our own individualized selves. So there really is no separation at the end of the day.
I said we're all 8 billion pieces exploded, pieces of God. And somehow we have to figure out our piece together to come together like a big giant puzzle. And we have to fit back together to make wholeness.
Absolutely.
And we're all connected. That's how I see it too. So we're both correct. I like that. All right, let's go. Yeah, because I think we don't see ourselves in each other.
Right.
And we don't see the connected, not just that we're stronger together and all of these, wonderful slogans, but how much more can we get done when we fit in to one another with our unique thing that's just uniquely us? You can blow up a puzzle, and if there's one piece missing, the whole picture looks incomplete. And most of us aren't seeking our full selves, so we can't fit into that spot that's missing because we're not playing out our role that we were put here to do. So the puzzle's incomplete. So we got to complete the puzzle by completing ourselves and do the work, damn it. Y'all got to do the work.
Karen.
That's what Iyanla said. I got that from Iyanla. Do the work. All right. Dawn in New Jersey, Iyanla Van Zandt, shout out to you. Hey, welcome.
Hi, how are you? My question is, you all were speaking about how we as women usually give others grace, but we don't give ourselves grace. And I wanted to know, as a woman, how do I give myself grace? Because I deal with a lot. I carry a lot. I just have a lot of things going on in my life, a lot of heaviness, just a lot of weight that I've been carrying. And I always try to make sure that everybody else is okay. And I always believe that everybody else is going to be okay and that things will work out for them, but not for myself. I have a difficult time believing that for myself. I have a difficult time taking care of myself and giving myself grace. So I would like to know, how do I do that for myself?
The first thing I will offer to you, thank you for asking the question, is to breathe. A lot of times we don't breathe. We hold our breath. We shallow breathe. So I want to offer to you to breathe. It starts with breathing, then self-care and self-love. Give yourself what you're giving to other people. It's something you have to will yourself to do, because it sounds as if you've been conditioned, right, to shut down your emotion and perform for other people so that you can be accepted and loved. And so I challenge you today, lovingly challenge you, to give yourself that same kind of care and compassion. Just going for a walk, enjoying nature, walking barefoot, feeling the ground under your feet, to know that you are held and loved and cared for, doing some mirror work, looking in the mirror and talking to yourself, saying the things you say to people that you love. Say that to yourself in the mirror. Is something you have to be deliberate about. And the other thing that came to me that I want to share with you is to release your have to. It sounds as if you live at the mercy of, I have to do this. I have to do this for them. And the truth is, you don't. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do as an adult. You really don't. And lastly, I will offer to you to go back into your childhood and try to remember Who planted that seed in you that you had to perform for love?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you first believe that? Because it's something, it sounds as if you're doing subconsciously. So your subconscious has to be replaced now with affirmations that build you up in a way that you've never been built up before. And so hopefully in that list, I've said something that you can implement immediately. And again, I'll reiterate, breathe.
We're talking with Dr. Vikki Johnson. What's your relationship with your mother?
I have a great relationship with my mom.
Did you tell her when you gave your daughter to your supervisor?
I didn't.
Why
I didn't.
not? Why didn't you tell your mom?
I didn't talk to anybody. That's one of the characteristics of depression is isolation. I was that overachieving middle child of 6. So my affirmation in my mind, until I started doing more self-work, was if I do good, if I perform well, if I paint this perfect picture and wear this mask, then I won't be the problem, right? I won't be a burden, and I'll get that affirmation and acceptance. So for a long time, I hid my truth. I think my family, and I come from a very large family, just had a family reunion this past weekend, as a matter of fact, but I think a lot of them read my true story for the first time in my book.
So you showed up to Thanksgiving without your daughter. Nobody asked any questions?
No. I didn't go home.
Okay.
I stayed away.
Okay.
You can't go back to the village
No.
if you're not ready to deal with the village
Yeah,
questions.
so I stayed away and watch this, left them with their impression until I was ready to speak my truth. I let them believe what they wanted to believe, and a lot of people do that.
So your husband cheated on you. How'd you find out?
That woman's intuition. Just kind of, let me look here, and I would find things, literally not looking. I would just find things and connect the dots.
And when you confronted him, what did he say?
Of course he denied it.
And then what was your last straw when he had to go? Or did he leave on his own?
No, I left, because everything was cool with him, because he was doing whatever he wanted to do.
He was living his best life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I left, and you know what? I got to, here's the moment. I was in church one Sunday, and my pastor said, you have to be willing to risk having nothing for a moment so you can have it all. And when he said that, my depression lifted. Like everything, it's like I came back to myself in that moment. And I went home. I was like, you know what? You can have everything. I can replace things. I'm back. Right? You can have it all. And I started bringing boxes home.
And to prove that you can have it all.
You can have it. Because I can replace things. But I can't replace my peace.
Does he have a relationship with your daughter?
He does. And she loves her dad. That's one of the things I did not do. I did not tear him down in front of her. And I just decided, whatever she discovers, she will discover it as she becomes an adult. But I'm not going to take that from her. Her relationship with her father was not my relationship with him as a husband.
Okay. If someone's suffering from postpartum depression right now, what would you suggest they do?
Tell someone if you have not. Tell somebody the truth of what is going on so that you can be supported. A little support.
The dirty, ugly,
the truth.
Raw truth.
The truth. So that you can be supported. Because there is someone available to love your baby until you can.
I love that. Well, thank you for your
welcome.
Service,
Thank
Dr. Vikki Johnson.
Allowing me to come into the Karen Hunter house.
Most
awesome.
are welcome. Only people who are, most are welcome. Just don't troll us. But no, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been a filling show. It was like full.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. You're welcome.